you're wrong. And let me tell you where you're wrong. I like you, but I think you're wrong on this. And I'm going to tell you where I think you're wrong. Number one, I always said, even back in 2003 when I opposed the war at the outset, that part of the reason I opposed it was because we had distracted ourselves from the war that has to be won in Afghanistan. That's not a war of choice. We have Al-Qaeda setting up base camps in the borders between Pakistan and Afghanistan, who are training and plotting to kill Americans. We can't tolerate that. So we have to finish the job in Afghanistan. Iraq was an enormous distraction from that, and that is part of the reason why I opposed it. It was a war of choice, not a war of necessity. It has cost us trillions of dollars, thousands of lives, fanned the flames of anti-American sentiment, and has not made us more safe. Now, John McCain will say, well, the surge has been so successful. You know, and let me say this, our troops have performed magnificently, and the violence is genuinely down. And we have to give our troops credit for that enormous work. But listen, if you drive a bus into a ditch, and then after 5 years and $1 trillion and 4,000 lives lost, you are getting the bus halfway out of the ditch. That doesn't mean you made a good decision driving off the road into the ditch. That doesn't make you right for the strategic blunder that you made at the outset. And so let's be very clear. Iraq was a fundamental error. I have never wavered from that. I have never wavered from the idea that we have to get our troops out of Iraq. So that's point number one. Now on FISA, I want to address this because I know that there were bloggers and activists who were saying, oh, he's compromising. Let me tell you something. I'm a constitutional lawyer and a civil rights lawyer. And I have always had a track record of fighting on behalf of civil liberties and civil rights. I said from the outset that as President of the United States, I'm going to make sure that we have the tools that we need to protect us from terrorists, but that we are doing so in a way that comports with our Constitution and rule of law. The original FISA bill did not, and the reason it did not, for those of you who aren't aware, FISA is the bill that allowed wiretapping without warrants, without going through a court called the FISA court that was specially designed to make sure that they were overseeing what the administration, what the president was doing, so that this guy didn't just have a blank check to wiretap anybody he wanted, anytime he wanted. And it is true that I opposed the original bill in part because it was giving immunity to phone companies who had participated with the administration. But the main reason that I objected was because it didn't have what's called an exclusivity provision that would ensure that any efforts to go to wiretap individuals went through this FISA court. The new bill that I voted for had that provision. It didn't let the phone companies off the hook. I wasn't happy about that, and I voted for an amendment to make sure that the phone companies were held accountable. But my most important concern was making sure that moving forward, that the executive branch, our president, has somebody overseeing them, whether that president is George Bush or that president is Barack Obama, that it is accountable to another branch of government. And this bill accomplishes that. Let me make this last point. I intend to get things done as president. And that means that and by the way, I intend to win the presidency.